Sean Hannity decided to comment on the runoff elections in Georgia, and he made an ass of himself. But beyond that, if you pay close attention here, it almost sounds to me like he's drunk.
And last night, the far-left extremism of the Democratic Georgia Party, well, that candidate, Raphael Warnock, on full display, refused to directly renounce Marxism and socialism. Why? Because he's publicly advocated for it many times over the years. And by the way, wouldn't give a straight answer on Joe Biden and court packing. Haven't thought about it. I don't believe it. And I would have given him all the time he needed to give an answer. Take a look.
Reverend Warnock, in your writings and your teachings, you've repeatedly praised Marxism and the redistribution of income. Can you here and now, for all Georgians, renounce socialism and Marxism?
Listen, I believe in our free enterprise system, and my dad was a small business owner.
Look, these are more lies from radical liberal Raphael Warnock, someone that has invited Fidel Castro, a murderous dictator, into his own church, someone that has celebrated anti-American, anti-Semite Jeremiah Wright. You know, he has also said that police officers are gangsters and thugs and refused to apologize for it. He said that you can't serve God and the military.
Wondering if you can answer the question, do you support expanding the Supreme Court?
I'm really not focused on it. And I think that too often, the politics in Washington has been about the politicians.
They didn't ask if you're focused on it. Do you support packing the courts? And I don't believe him when he says he doesn't have an answer. The far left extremism doesn't stop there, because tonight we're learning more about the troubling record of Senator Perdue's opponent, Jon Ossoff, who's facing incumbent David Perdue because aside from endorsing an unhinged socialist agenda, and I mean way to the left of Bolshevik Bernie and Ocasio-Cortez, earlier this year, Ossoff quietly disclosed ties to a pro-Chinese Communist Party media company. Oh, and he got payments from the highly controversial Qatari-backed Al Jazeera network. See what's going on? Yep, Raphael Warnock, Jon Ossoff, clearly ready, willing, able to team up with Chucky Schumer, the force of radical socialism, and literally destroy everything that Donald Trump's accomplished in the last 4 years and probably investigate his family into perpetuity.
Awesome. That would be wonderful. There's nothing I'd like more than to destroy all the things Trump has done, like massive deregulation, gutting the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, a bureau which returned billions of dollars to defrauded Americans who were ripped off by financial institutions, reversing those Trump tax cuts where 83% of them went to the top 1%. And the most important part was cutting corporate taxes. Nothing I would like more than destroying those things, destroying his repeal of clean water and air protections. I would like to bring those back, thank you very much. So I would love that, and I would also love his family to be investigated. Why would I want his family investigated? Well, because there's a lot of evidence that they committed crime, Sean. Like, for example, the illegal write-offs that Ivanka was taking, that Trump was taking by giving money to Ivanka and saying it's a consulting fee, and then writing it off. Okay, that's one example. There's a million examples. How much money did he make? Jared and Ivanka made like $130 million over the course of a year or two as they were working in the White House. Let's check the source of some of that money. Is some of that coming from Saudi Arabia or Israel? And are they getting favors in return for that? This is what I call corruption 101. Donald Trump taking money from the Saudis through his DC hotel and then giving them a multi-billion-dollar weapons deal. That's not good. That's absolutely not good. The new scam that they're doing, which is like, let's raise money to stop the steal. And apparently most of that money is just going to pay down their campaign debt and maybe even his personal debt. That should all be investigated. So do I think... And by the way, this is the difference between somebody like me and somebody like Sean Hannity. You know what else I think should be investigated? The Clinton Foundation. Because that's also incredibly corrupt. And it's a veneer, it's a facade for respectability of, oh, we're doing charity. Meanwhile, of course, they're making plenty of money off of it. And there's, corrupt connections where they're, way too close with executives and billionaires and business owners and people who really control our political system. I say we should invest the Clinton Foundation, and I say we should investigate the, not just the Trump Foundation, which he does have that and that should be investigated, but we should also just investigate him and his family and their business dealings because it's sketchy as hell. So that's the difference. I'm not a partisan hack. So when I think there's foul play and corporatism and corruption happening, I would definitely investigate Democrats, and I would investigate Republicans. He only wants to investigate the Democrats, again, because he's a partisan hack, and he's a complete loser. Okay, so to that final part, I'd say, rock on. That's exactly what I want. Investigate him, which they're not going to do, by the way. I wish they would, but they're not going to do it. They're already saying, like, look forward, not backwards, the old Obama line of, like, you know, we don't like to look backwards, we look forwards. This is what he said to overlook Bush's torture and illegal wars, and this is what they're going to say now to overlook Trump's financial crimes. I also got a good chuckle out of radical socialist Chucky Schumer. Imagine thinking Chuck Schumer is a radical socialist. Is that what he said? Yeah, radical socialist. Chuck Schumer as a socialist is the most hilarious thing I've ever heard in my life. These guys are down the line, standard, boring, neoliberal corporatists. That's what they are. Look at his voting record. Radical socialist. Then you'll notice he talks about how John Ossoff is like bought off by Qatar and China and Russia. Like, I got many criticisms with John Ossoff, but they're substantive. This is not substantive. This is made up. And everybody likes to Russiagate each other these days. Or I should say Chinagate each other these days as well. Which is like, you know, people are always arguing that politicians are beholden to like foreign governments and they're acting as Manchurian candidates. When the real scandal is that they're mostly beholden to Pfizer, pharmaceutical companies, health insurance companies, Wall Street, the military-industrial complex. That's who they're really beholden to. Now, in the case of Trump, it's a little different because he did take that money from Saudi Arabia, and Jared got a lot of money from Israeli banks and then did favors for them. So they're kind of beholden to those states, but they're not beholden to Russia. There's no evidence of that. And really, first and foremost, they're beholden to corporate America and billionaires. Now, same thing with John Ossoff, maybe to a slightly lesser degree, but this idea to overreach and act like he's some sort of Manchurian candidate for China, it's like, you just look so stupid. And again, calls him a radical socialist. I mean, this guy was saying, I'm against the Green New Deal and I'm against Medicare for all. Boring neoliberal corporatists, but they have one argument, and their argument is, radical. You're a radical. That's what I think. I think you're radical. Are you radical? Radical. And they also think that that's an argument in and of itself. This is how you know he's been preaching to the choir for decades, is that he says things that only appeal in his little bubble. He basically does the fundamental opposite of what I try to do on this show. I try to craft arguments that don't just appeal to people who already agree with me, but it's in my mind all the time. I'm cognizant of the fact that somebody might be watching this who doesn't agree with me. And so I try to talk about things in a way where it could appeal to people who don't even necessarily agree with me. We're like, you know what? I don't agree with Kyle on a lot of stuff, but that seems like a good point. But there's none of that for Hannity because he's just a partisan hack. The fear-mongering about packing the courts is hilarious because we all know that these milquetoast Democrats are not going to pack the courts. I love it if they would. They should do that. You want to have a 6-3 conservative court that can veto any good legislation at all and just claim it's unconstitutional even though it's not? Because that's what they could do. A 6-3 conservative court would just be like, meh. Oh, did you just pass a bill that gives millions of people health care? We say it's unconstitutional. Revoked. And they'll have BS arguments. I would love it if they pack the court, but they're not going to because they're boring corporate Democrats. You know, they make them seem a lot cooler than they are. But the final point, and my favorite point, is Sean says, and doesn't he sound drunk? I really think he sounds drunk in this clip. I really do. He sounds just totally hammered to me. In fact, originally I was listening to the clip on like 1.5 times speed or 2 times speed, and it sounded fine. And then when I put it at normal speed, I was like, oh, he's hammered, dog. He's sipping a little something. He's got a little flask or something underneath the desk or in his jacket pocket. That's what it sounds like. But he says, Warnock couldn't renounce socialism. And then he shows the clip, and Warnock is asked, like, you know, do you believe in Marxism or socialism? Something along those lines. And then his response is, I believe in our free enterprise system. My dad was a small business owner. How can Sean look at that and say, oh, he couldn't renounce Marxism? He literally just said, I believe in the free enterprise system, and my dad was a small business owner. That's exactly what he's doing. That's him saying, no, I actually don't believe in Marxism. I believe in our free enterprise system. That's directly the opposite point that Sean claimed he made. Like, it really is amazing to me, the stuff that they get away with or try to get away with on Fox News. Like, how did you think for even a second, that you could make that point and then get it by people? And to be fair, people who are just going into it and they don't like the Democrats, they'll probably be like, yeah, Sean's right. But you just saw his point contradict what Sean said. He said, I believe in a free enterprise system. That's him saying, I believe in capitalism. Agree to disagree with that. It doesn't matter. However you feel about that, that's what he said. I believe in the free enterprise system. My dad was a small business owner. And he's acting like no, he's a Marxist and he refused to say anything but that. That's not true, Sean. These guys are amazing. Listen, he's a dying breed. Him and Rush Limbaugh, like, he's a dying breed. This stuff is so sloppy and so stupid that it's only appealing to people who are in retirement homes. You know what I mean? Like, this is not, in the modern internet age, the new media age, this stuff isn't going to land. Even young conservatives will look at this guy and be like, fuck, shut up, Sean. You sound so stupid. They're more likely to tune into, like, Tucker or watch some new media show. But, like, who could watch this drivel and like it? Just complete partisan hacks in retirement communities who aren't really interested in finding the truth. They're interested in having their emotional needs met and somebody to give them the simplistic narrative of, like, left bad, right good. I'm here to say that every night with my square-ass jaw and my, like, American flag lapel pin. And it's like, okay, congrats on being, like, a human living stereotype, because that's exactly what you are.